The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Good morning. Christine Westerlin here at the Illinois Association of Community Action Agencies, and welcome to the DCEO ICA Collaboration Webinar Series. We're so happy that you are with us this morning, and I am so excited that we have a great speaker with us today. Edmund Lai is our speaker. He is going to be looking at a system that and he'll share a lot more about it with you all. A system that he's been really working deeply in at Champaign County Regional Planning Commission, and I think give us some insight into the value of how we can bring services together. And I'll say no more and let Edmund take care of that, but let me introduce him to you. Edmund has been working at the Regional Planning Commission for about 2 years. He has a background in providing direct services at various social services in the Chicago area for about 5 years. Edmund has a master's degree in geographic information science, and he's interested in using spatial data analysis to improve community growth and engagement. So there's so much in that description that I think is so relevant for our work today in community action. As usual in our webinar, this webinar is being recorded. You do have the option to ask questions using the dashboard that you find that should be on your screen, hopefully up in your upper right-hand corner, but you have the option of moving that, but please use that. We will have a bit of a break. Edmund's this is kind of in 2 parts. He's going to talk about the system, and then we're going to see a demonstration of it. So there will be opportunities for those questions. Again, this is being recorded and will be made available to you all. There's also a survey at the end of the webinar, and I believe it will also be sent to you again tomorrow. And we would really appreciate it if you would take the time to respond to that very short survey. It will just take you a couple of minutes to fill it out, but we want to hear from you about this webinar series. Before we get started, I am going to have us recite the promise of community action as we typically do. So however you feel comfortable, you can say it along with me. You can say it silently, but I would encourage you to really think about the importance of these words. Community action changes people's lives, embodies the spirit of hope, improves communities, and makes America a better place to live. We care about the entire community, and we are dedicated to helping people help themselves and each other. All right, Edmund, I'm going to officially hand the keys over to you. So let me do that.
Okay.
Right. And I see your screen, sir.
All right, that's good. Well, thank you, Christine. And good morning, everyone. And so today I'm going to talk about how our agency starts moving toward a more streamlined approach to providing service. So first I'll have a few slides talking about what we've done. Then we can pause for questions, and then I'm going to do a short demo of the system that we're actually using. So a little bit about me. I'm Edmund, and so I've been working at the different social services agency in Chicago. So my first job was actually working as a case manager at the WIOA programs, and then I was involved in the teaching adult ESL, work with special needs children, and then I was also a youth program coordinator for after-school programs. So I've done a little bit of everything. So right now I'm a software developer here at RPC, and I work with a small team of developers here to support the technology needs at our organization. So I'm currently working on a project, the Sierra project, this data management project for about 2 years now. So a little bit about our organization. So we are a intergovernmental membership organization, and we provide various programmings, and that include regional and transportation planning. So we have social services such as LIHEAP, weatherization, disability services. We also have a division in workforce. So we work with the WIOA program to provide workforce development. And we also have a Head Start and Early Head Start program in our organization as well. So as you can see, we have many different focus nested in one single organization, and that leads to some of the issues you see on here. So the different programs here at RPC uses different information management system, and there's different ways for each of our programs to track the informations and to provide reports to the funders. So then with that, makes, making a referral between different programs within our organization difficult, because there isn't a formal communication channel where the caseworker can make that referral right now. And that leads to clients sometimes have to schedule multiple appointments to talk to multiple caseworkers just to apply for services here at RPC. With all the above issues, pulling reports for the whole agency is difficult right now. We have to search through different spreadsheets, databases, to combine all the numbers and try to deduplicate them so that we can get a clear picture of how many clients we've served in our organization. And so we have this project, but before we got started, we came up with this value statement, which derived from our organization mission statement as well. So I'm going to read that to you. And it reads, the data governance program will develop a standardized intake and screening process with an information system that that will ensure data quality, accessibility, and security. The system will provide a framework for internal collaboration and decision making, as well as increase RPC responsiveness to the public through efficient service and online data sharing. So the reason we have this statement is to try to keep ourselves grounded on what we're trying to achieve in the process. And also to look back while we implement new workflow, new system, to evaluate what we're doing is actually what we set out to do in the past. So that's why we have this value statement. Okay, click next. Okay. So then we have a two-pronged approach to tackle the issues that I've listed previously. So first one is to create a more streamlined workflow for staff and client. And the next one is also create a database, develop a new database to keep track of clients, statuses, and information. So here is a diagram of the proposed workflow. There are a lot of steps on here on the diagram, but I just want to draw your attention to the little guy in the middle here with the check mark. You can see the mouse cursor that I have. So what this is we want to have a single point of entry for the client where they can come to our agency through either phone calls, referrals, walk-in, but then we can give them a single application where they can fill out, and then they'll be able to be screened for all of our services here at RPC. And so what we've done so far is we looked at all the application forms here, and we look at the common fields that we collect from clients. We combine that and created a single intake form the client can fill out to apply to all the services in RPC, and that's available in the system that I'm going to talk about with you in just a second. So I'm not going to go a lot into the workflow because I'm more familiar with the technical side of things. So when we first started, we started looking for a software database that can do all these things here at RPC. So there are a lot of software out there that can do something similar to what we're looking for, but we also have these criteria here that we want to narrow it down to. So the first one is low cost. what that means is we're looking for a software solution that we don't have to pay annual or periodic subscription fee just to continue to use the software. And we also don't want to pay a large amount of money initially for a vendor or a contractor to try to develop a custom solution for us, because funding is always an issue in social services. So we want something that's low cost. Second one is we want something to be open source. What that means is the software itself, the source code has to be open and can be freely distributed to everyone. And for developers, that means we can also freely modify the source code to make it fit our workflow and data structure, so that we're looking for open source software. And then the third and fourth one is they're sort of tied together. No vendor tied in and have control of our own data. So some of these other software out there, I mean, they have their own data format and structure that sometimes it's very difficult to migrate and transfer data from one place to another. So we don't want to do that. We want to have access to the raw data so that we can do analysis on the data in the future. So then we settled on a software called Suite CRM. See at the bottom there. It's a free and open source software. It's a client relation management software, so that it can track client progress in their case. And so what we need to do next is to develop and modify the software to fit our needs. While we were at that, we also gave it a new name. We call that Sierra, which stands for the Standardized Intake, Enrollment, Referral, and Reporting Application. No, it's a mouthful, but having the name Sierra really helps during the implementation process, because the caseworker will have something to refer to. Like they would say, oh yeah, Sierra is so awesome, like Sierra is so good. And those are real quotes too, I think. So yeah, instead of just calling it RPC Data Portal or RPC Data Hub, I think having a name to refer to actually help move things along. So after about 6 months of work, excuse me, after about 6 months of developing and modifying this source code, currently Sierra have these functionalities now. So when a caseworker fill out an application, it will screen for all the RPC services we have here, so we can do screening. And it can also track enrollment and progress. So caseworker can enroll clients into programs and track progress throughout the enrollment. The system Sierra can also track outcomes, so we can see how many successful outcome, how many unsuccessful outcome we have, and we can make reports on that. Sierra also has the capability to store digital documents. So when a client apply and give us their documentation, we can store that and use that for to apply to other programs as well. So here is a I say it's a simplified workflow. I don't know how simplified it is, but I'm just going to go through a few modules here we have in Sierra to show you what type of information we track in the system. It will make more sense when I actually do the demo later on. So we have the individual module. We store information like the date of birth, demographic of the individual, phone number, their social security number. Then we have the RPC application, which have some of the information on the household information like address, household size, household type, etc. Then we have the enrollment module. that we will keep track of the start day, which program the clients enroll into, which funder funds that enrollment, the status of the enrollment and closing date. And we have services, the service module. We can track what type of service has been provided to the client. We can also track the length of the service that's being provided, and we can also do case notes here as well. Okay. So here's a screenshot of what the system looks like. So this is the application. As you can see, some of the information on top here will fill out, and then at the bottom, the system will automatically tell you which program that they're eligible for. So in our case here, they're eligible for no limits and weatherization. So then the caseworker can, enroll them into these programs. Okay. So this is a screenshot of the enrollment record. So you can see which program they're enrolled into, the status of it, the enrollment outcome. And on the bottom here, you can also see a list of services that's been provided to the clients. So some of the challenges our team face when implementing Sierra, and we're also trying to tackle some of the issues right now, is first one is integrating with other funder related database. So some of our programs have requirements to use databases that the state set up. So we're still looking into how we can better integrate the two systems so that we can reduce the time of data entry. So that's been a very challenging part of this process. And second was, I would say, organization inertia and staff buy-in. And that's a big one because staff is doing things one way and changing to something new is not always easy. So in the process, we've provided thorough documentation, training, and also constant support to our staff to make this transition a little bit easier. There's also the constant changing of program requirements. So programs have different needs. They need to track different fields and have different reports. So then when we are developing our system, we try to make it as flexible as we can so we can accommodate some of these needs in the future. And so if your organization is looking to implement something like what we're doing, so something to consider is the internal technical capacity to develop the system and modify the software. So currently we host our own database and web server and the application internally. So there needs to be the capacity to maintain all these infrastructure. And it also have a sort of long project timeline because we first have to look through all the processes we have in our agency, and then we have to look for a system, and we have to modify the code to make it work. So then the timeline will be a little bit long as well. So some of the best practices we found during the process is, so right now we have about 4 programs using the system. And I think moving slowly with each program is a key because we can constantly get feedback from the staff and see what we're doing right, what we're doing wrong, how we can make it smoother for how do we make the transition smoother. Anything we can change on the user interface, on the database, we can make it so that it will fit the workflow better. And so it's a constant learning process when we're doing this. So any questions? And that's the presentation part of the webinar.
All right.
So is there any questions?
Pause here for a moment and see if anyone has questions. I don't see any coming in.
Okay. Yeah, there will be more time at the end after I do the demo, and you can ask the questions later.
Perfect.
So I guess I'll move forward with the demo.
Yes.
Okay, can everybody see the screen? Right? Yes.
I'm guessing
Okay.
yes.
Yes. So that's that's Sierra. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to fill out a application, and then we'll do a enrollment, and you can see a simplified workflow of what we do here. So once you log in, this is your home screen. You and the caseworker will see. So we're going to pretend we have a client coming in and applying for service. So I'm going to go through the workflow with you. So when we first have a client coming in, we want to search for the client and see if they exist in the system. So we always want to do a search before creating the client, because we try to avoid duplicating data in the database. So I have a client here, it's called test, and I'm going to use this client. I'm not going to create a new one. So now we see that we have a client. We're going to fill out the application and link that application to the client. So I'm going to go to RPC application, and I'm going to fill out an application here. So when we're doing an application, we'll fill out the address of the client. Some of the questions we ask, it's length of time you stay at current address. So these are combining all the program intake form to form this one intake here. Household size, say 1. Let's do rent. So by answering some of the questions, you're helping the system screen for the eligibility. You can see self, and we can track who's being referred to, who's referring the client to us, and we can run reports based on that. And save this for now. So now we have the application, and we're going to link that person here. So we want to create the application participant, and we're going to link that person. Then we'll fill out the income here. Let's just say they have no income right now, and we'll leave all these to default setting, and we'll hit save. So as you can see, after I've linked the individual to the application, so it's looking at some of the demographic information of the client and see if they're over the certain age to be eligible for senior services. We look at the income when we're calculating the eligibility criteria. We also look at some of the application household information on top as well, come up with the eligibility information on the bottom here. So you can see this client's eligible for LIHEAP, no limits, weatherization workforce, etc. So then I'm just gonna do it enrollment here. So I'm gonna enroll the client into no limits. Okay, no limits down here. Okay, and then I'm gonna link that client here, so we can select the funder. It says open, in progress, and let's have the start date to have it today. So we can save that now. So then we can track a list of enrollments that's part of the application. So one last thing I'm going to do is show you how we do the case notes. So we have create service here. We can create a list of services under the enrollment so we can track how many services have been provided to that client. So I'm just going to leave that here. Going to change some of these. Completed. The start time, say from 9 a.m. to 10 a.m. And then we can do case note here, case note here. So now we'll see clients have completed a self-sufficiency assessment. One last thing is we also developed new custom functions so we can keep track of how much time the client spent on this enrollment. So it says here 60 minutes because we just have one service with the client. So there are a lot of other functionalities in the system as well. I'm not going to go through all of that with you. So there's reporting that we can do. There's also some custom report that we created that's based on program needs. So any questions about the system itself?
So, Edmund, I've got a couple of questions that have come in. First of all, can you show what report options there are?
Yeah, sure. So what reports options we have? So we can do not give this user permission to reports, but we can create reports based on the enrollment. Let's see here. We can create quick reports. Well, yeah, so there are a couple options. We can do like standard reporting, which is based on basically like how many enrollments we have in this certain program. We can say how many enrollments starting this, in fiscal year 2019, how many of those we have. We can do reporting like, certain demographics, how many a certain demographic enroll into a certain program in this period of time. So we can do all that fairly easily, and that's pretty much built into the system. And there's also custom reports that the developers are writing to help some of the more specific, like I know for our youth assessment program, we're looking at how many clients have an adjudication a year after their client exit the program, and then 2 years after they exit the program. And then for no limits, we have specific report like how many clients we have enrolled that has been more than 1 year. So we can create more specific reports based on the needs of the program. So I hope I answer your question. So there's, your standard built-in report, and we can also create custom report as well.
Great, thank you. A couple of more questions that have come in. So one question is regarding STARS. Are staff members entering into both STARS in this system?
So currently, the STAR program haven't started using this system, but it would be yes. I think the short answer would be yes. So they would have to enter that in STAR in our system right now. So that's one of the challenges I talked about a little bit earlier in my presentation is how do we integrate the two systems better so that caseworker don't have to do data entry twice, or maybe more times than twice if there's more system that they need to use. So we're looking into solution and see if there's a way we can either export data from STAR and import that into Sierra automatically, or say we can enter the data in Sierra and then we push data into Star. But I don't think there's a simple way to do that, as they don't have a sort of an interface for us programmers to sort of to have the two systems talk to each other. So a little bit about Sierra and the system that we're using. I don't want to go into too technical, but you can get data from it using an API pretty easily from Sierra, so that we can get data from it. But then it's just how we push that onto Star that's been challenging. And I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, I think it does. I think most folks are very concerned about duplicate entry. That is certainly something that we hear often.
Right.
That we're trying to figure that out, and so I think that was a good response. With it, there needs to be a way to do that. So
right.
Another question that's come in: is there a way to create multiple program enrollments in one screen, or do you need to enroll each program separately?
So we do have multiple programs. So we have all these programs here that you can enroll into. In the application, maybe I'll go back to my home screen and look at the newest application that we created. And so you will have to create that enrollment separately. And the reason to that is because, I mean, there's specific information that you need to fill out for that enrollment. So let's say I have a no limits enrollment now, and then I want to enroll that person in, let's say, what else? LIHEAP, right? We can just choose one. And then you see here this application participant is it's included because the idea behind this is you can have multiple people in the application, and then you can enroll different individual into different program. Let's say you have a parent and they're in LIHEAP, and then you have a child that can be enrolled into Head Start. That's why we have these two fields in here. So then you would just do open and in progress, but then they can also have different start day as well, right? So yeah, we have to do that separately. But then after that, you'll see they have two enrollments here with that single application, and then you can click into them and do case notes. Yeah, so to answer your question, yes, you have to do that separately, but I guess they're on the same screen. I don't know if that answers your question or not.
Yeah, I think it certainly answers to my understanding. Absolutely.
Okay.
I don't see any more questions coming in. Oh yes, and the person who did pose that question said yes, that answers the question. So very good.
Okay.
So seeing no more questions, Edmund, thank you so much for what you have shared with us. I think you've given all of us so much to think about. I want to go back just briefly to when you did that workflow. Can you just maybe say a little bit more about the value of doing that workflow when you're considering this sort of approach to a bundled service?
This workflow? Or?
Yes.
Yes. So when I was so I did a little bit on let me take a step back a little bit. When we first started the project, the first step we did was not look into any system that we're using. We didn't dive right into maybe we use Salesforce, maybe we contact some vendor to create a system for us. So we didn't do that. So what we did first is to meet with the different programs and sit down with them and look at, what actually what's their workflow is, and how we can, sort of combine them together into a single workflow for our organization. And I think the vision is that we have we come up with this workflow where we have a single point of entry, so then the client can come in once and apply to all the service. So one application and apply to all of our services. So then after we have this set, then we started looking for software that can, help us achieve that goal. Yeah, so we're moving slowly toward this workflow, and yes, so I think there's a lot of, value before we look for software. We come up with a workflow like this so that we can, match our needs based on what we have here. But yeah, for the workflow, I'm not that familiar with. I'm more into the technical side of things, but I think that's our process. Is we create this workflow first. Yeah.
Okay. No, that's great. I think, I believe that this workflow has to be a critical piece if any agency is looking towards bundled service. And so thank you for your explanation of that and its value.
Yeah, so then another thing we did was, I mentioned that earlier, is to combine. We look at all the intake forms for all the programs, and we look at all the fields that we're collecting. I mean, a lot of those are very similar fields. I mean, your demographic information, your income, your household status. So most of that are pretty much the same and can be combined. So then we actually came up with, a new form that we can use for RPC. So I think that has a lot of value, and we save a lot of, duplicate data entry and storing. So
great, thank you. Well, Edmund, thank you again for sharing your knowledge. I think you've given us a lot to think about. So if you want to throw the screen back in my direction, you can.
Okay.
All right, thank you.
Okay. You have control now, or?
Well, I think I do. Let me see what happens. So Edmund, again, thank you. Our next webinar is not October 26th. It is October 16th. I apologize. My fingers were flying too fast. And it is, I think, a webinar that really is something that's important for all of us to have a conversation about. Is exploring human capacity and community transformation. As you know, this is an initiative from OCS. It was issued earlier this year. I know that NASCASP has been working to seek clarity on what all of this means, and so we're going to start the conversation. But again, it's October 16, not the 26th. The 26th is a Saturday, so if you all want to be on a webinar with me on a Saturday, more than happy to set that up. But we'll go ahead and end this webinar. Again, Edmund, thank you so much for your participation and your expertise today. We really appreciate your time and your energy.
Thank you for inviting me.
I hope that you come back.
Sure thing.
So just to remind everybody before we close this session out that there is a survey that follows this webinar, and please take the time to participate, or a survey that follows the end of this webinar. Take the time to fill out that survey. We really need your input. It's important to all of us so we can really present topics that are of great value to you all. So thank you so much, and take care, everybody. And Edmund, again, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Come back. Where'd it go?